Nothing says racial justice like doing roughly $2 million worth of damage to a historically significant statue of an elk in downtown Portland. That's literally what's going on. Hey, if you do the crime, you should do the time. In this case, Black Lives Matter and Antifa. I mean, that's who was there rioting in Portland nightly. They were the ones that destroyed this statue, right? They were the ones that caused all this damage, and not just to this statue, to downtown Portland in general. They should foot the bill for this repair. Will they? Absolutely not, but they should. Let's jump on in. Let's see, why is it going to cost $2 million to repair this iconic statue in downtown Portland? Let's jump on in. Let's go. Repairs on Portland's elk statue and fountain could hit $2 million, according to a new study. The fountain was heavily damaged during the 2020 protests. Remove pending future plans. So I've seen the statue. I've recorded it. It's on some of my video. My trip during the 2020 protests down to Portland. What I remember is that it was gone, and in its place was a bunch of charcoal and wood piled up because they destroyed this, significant statue in the middle of downtown Portland because that's what they were doing. I mean, they were protesting racial injustice. They were protesting police brutality by tearing down statues. That's literally what they did. And this statue, by the time I got there, it was already gone. And there was just this, it was a fire waiting to happen every single night. They have a bonfire on the original what was the foundation of the original structure. Some of the other damage that I saw was the federal building. They just, Molotov cocktail and tried to light it on fire. I mean, just everything in that area. It looked like a war zone because it was on a nightly basis for over 100 nights in downtown Portland. And this is what some are calling, it's collateral damage. Yeah. Okay. I'm not okay with that. Bill those responsible. Black Lives Matter. Yep. You need to come to the table. You've spent $6 million on a house, and one of your leaders took off with $10 million. You could pony up $1 million. Antifa. How about Rose City Antifa coughs up $1 million? How about that? Maybe you should work it off. I don't know. But taxpayers of Portland should not be paying for this. They already did once back in 1900? I think that's when the statue was installed. But, it wasn't just this statue. It was big chunk of area of downtown Portland. I've got footage. I've got video of a public restroom that I have never seen a more destroyed public restroom than what Black Lives Matter and what Antifa did to the restroom I saw not far from where we're talking about this statue. There's multiple parks kind of in a row, and a couple of the big parks facing federal building, facing the justice system. That's where this stuff was going on, because they would have their riots. Let's not call them peaceful protests anymore, because when you try and light up, federal buildings on fire, that's not peaceful, and that's not really a protest. It's a riot. So when you've got that going on, all this stuff was just hammered on. It was just this terrible look. Wild times, right? This week, the city shared an update on the Thompson Elk Fountain restoration feasibility study. Fountain could return to downtown Portland by next spring and cost upwards of $2 million to repair and restore, according to the Portland Parks Foundation. One of the things I was just thinking of is, what did happen to Antifa? What did happen to Black Lives Matter? Did you see Kanye West and Candace Owens wearing shirts that said White Lives Matter and everybody just lost their shit? Who was it? Just a bunch of famous people are like, that's disrespectful. I mean, Kanye West, and then his tweet was like, hey, Y'all knew Black Lives Matter was a scam. Deal with it in in the way that he does that. And then all these other celebrities are just like, oh, that's terrible. Black Lives Matter. Well, White Lives Matter is what it said on the shirt. And, that's not really a thing, but leave it up to Kanye West to, do that kind of thing. The landmark was heavily damaged during the 2020 protest and deemed unsafe. City crews removed it, and for more than 2 years, it had been socked away into secret storage while the city estimates costs and plans out what to do with it. And like I said, it wasn't just this statue, it was anything in their path. Street lights, telephone poles, 7-Elevens, buildings in general is just destroy it, because that's, it's all anti-fascist, right? In May, the Portland City Council adopted a resolution to restore and improve the fountain, then returned it to Southwest Main Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue. The fountain is made up of 50 pieces. Well, it wasn't before. It was all roughly one piece, but now that it's 50 pieces because they destroyed it, so we can carefully look at every one of them to figure out how to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And Bill, Antifa, and Black Lives Matter, because that's who should pay. Simple as that, right? The study found that 18 pieces of the fountain needed to be rebuilt. The city also wanted the fountain to undergo seismic upgrades and get a new pump. All right. So it'll be there, through earthquakes, but not another riot, because they'll just take this out again. Annoying. The study estimated the cost for those improvements would be between $1.2 to $1.3 million. In addition, the city wanted to improve access and safety around the fountain by installing pavers to create a viewing area. Is this all that brilliant to be doing all of this $2 million worth of work in downtown Portland with, their history of what happens during social unrest, mostly peaceful? I don't know. I think I'd come up with something less destructible. These updates were estimated to cost $670,000, leaving the total estimate amount to nearly $2 million. Like I said, bill the responsible parties. That's what happens in the other areas of life, doesn't it? Yeah. But in this case, yeah, the taxpayers are going to pick up that bill. Excellent. This is a great public space, and we just want to make it the best we possibly can, said Greg. All right, make something out of all rubber. How about that? Well, no, you can burn rubber. Fire retardant rubber. Like when I was literally down covering this, and I walked up to a cop, and a Portland police officer, and said, hey, that storyline about Trump sending the feds down here to pluck people off the street in unmarked cars and then go, torture them, whatever those stories were, in windowless rooms down in the basement of some federal building. Is that true? And the guy's like, no. And one of the first things he said is, hey, here's the deal. So they go from there to there, and then they try and light these buildings on fire. They light anything on fire that they can. So you see the siding we've got on, it was the jail building that I was talking to the policeman in front of. He goes, see the siding we've got on this up into like a certain point on the building? It's fire retardant. Otherwise they would just light this bad boy on fire. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. All righty. And then it wasn't, from where I was standing talking to that officer, you could see where this statue was, kind of to the, I think it's to the north and west. You take a hard look, and there's a number of statues, and this is one of them, kind of in that area in a park. And it was just sad to see something as cool and iconic as this, which clearly these racial justice warriors didn't have any respect for, and tear it down and make a bonfire. It's what we're doing, because nothing says social unrest like, destroying things. So as far as who would foot the bill, Portland's arts program manager, Jeff Hawthorne, told KGW the money would likely come from a combination of funds. He said the foundation is insured for $973,000 with a $100,000 deductible. Oh my word. This is just, it's outrageous, isn't it? Portland Parks Foundation is also accepting public donations among other crowdfunding efforts. Hey, give us your money Yeah, we're going to need some more later because this is going to happen again. But just for right now, need a couple million. Would you just, and we know it's in an area of Portland that it's had some issues over the years, but mainly in the summer of 2020, we had those 100 nights of rioting that, mainstream press called peaceful protests, but it involved fire and, a lot of conflict with the police. And do you remember that one incident where federal officers were coming out of the federal building and dude from Antifa had like a big hammer? I don't even know what to call it. It was a big hammer. He was going to hit the officer as he came out. I think it might've been a police officer. It might've been a federal, but they were decked out in officer type garb. She's as the minute somebody opened up that door, you're going to pop him. I mean, that's some real violence. You got some real violence going on. If we have that happen again, this statue 2.0 is just toast, right? He said the remaining balance would likely come down to city council and how many, if any, taxpayer dollars would go towards it. Well, we've been making some great progress, said Hawthorne. Portland Parks Foundation has done a great job getting the designs, and we think the community will be pleased with what they see when the elk returns. Mind you, it's a statue of an elk. We're not talking about a statue of some white guy that, did some crazy stuff way back in the day, turn of the century. We're talking about a statue of an elk. It's iconic. It's elk. I mean, go elk hunting. A lot of elk hunting in Oregon. I've gone elk hunting in Oregon. It was cool. I didn't get to shoot one, but I saw one through my scope. The Thompson Elk Fountain is named after the former Portland mayor, David P. Thompson, in the 1900s. He commissioned the now historic landmark to honor the Oregon Humane Society, which he co-founded, and which 100 and something years later, Antifa and Black Lives Matter would tear down in a matter of minutes in, angry flurry of take to the streets, no justice, no peace, something like that. That's not how that one goes. But I realized that, I was going down a chant with an F-bomb in it, and we just weren't going to do that. Over the 120 years, historians have recorded around 30 major protests that took place at the fountain. This is not new, right? An element, but it withstood those 30 major protests until this one. An element that distinguished the 2020 protests was the fountain basins were empty due to city mandates that shut down fountains during the pandemic. Well, okay. Still got destroyed, right? That meant the fires that were started there caused damage never seen before. This whole thing, it's totally expected. And yet if you have any respect for, things that the public holds dear, this is crazy tragedy, but it's Portland and you're kind of like, all right, yeah, I get it. It's what we expect. How are we going to pay for it? It's like a parent with a kid who's wrecked 3 of their cars. And you're like, good Lord, the insurance is through the roof, but I don't want to drive that kid around. Let's get him yet another car, right? We think the best kind of insurance policy against the kind of vandalism is to have water in the fountains. How about we just don't let this kind of protest, devolve into violent outbursts? Well, again, that's not what we're doing in Portland because, it was mainly peaceful and the mayor was there side to side, shoulder to shoulder with Black Lives Matter and Antifa, until the mayor wasn't. And now he's got a very different stance on this whole thing. And yet somebody's got to pick up the $2 million bill, right? Noting that there would likely be future protests in the air. They already know this is going to happen. There will be some graffiti treatment, so graffiti could easily be removed. Our goal is to renew it, reinstall it, and make it a safer, more inviting public space. We're going to reimagine, we're going to rethink, we're going to redo. This is what we got going. Unfortunately, it's going to cost $2 million. Seems crazy, doesn't it? Is that the best use we can come up with in Portland for money? Apparently it is, because that's what they're doing. It's significant and they're going to put it back up. But how about we put some kind of structure around it so you can't destroy it? Yeah, but then you don't have the aesthetics of the original elk because it's a big elk, right? Big rack of antlers. They're amazing animals. I don't know how big this statue was because it wasn't there when I was there. Just the foundation of it was just the kind of the pedestal thing. And I remember hearing about they torn down this statue and they lit everything on fire. And it's like, okay, yeah, that really gets a point across your point of racial injustice when you destroy notable things in a public park. Yeah, that really kind of tells you all you need to know about that, right? All right. That's it for me on this one. $2 million. Insane. That's what we're doing in 2022. Thanks for being here. We'll catch up soon on the next one. Bye for now.